which is not wrong per se, but indeed short-termism, as we know, is something that is shorthand for being rushed and not thinking of all the other consequences. But I would take this further to perhaps suggest that it's not so much about the term per se, which is important, but perhaps more important that the quick profit is not the sole goal of the company, but the right profit under the right circumstances. And most importantly is all investments and trade and commerce should have significant and positive and significant impact on a sustainable basis to the widest, if we believe in the conception of a shareholder economy, as what was posited earlier. At one end of the spectrum of investing or conception of investing or the economy from the investing world has come to popularly be known as impact investing, as we have heard. Khazanah itself, I think we try to participate in this. Now, whether this is in companies that delivers, for example, affordable houses, but yet 92% of their customer base does not even have bank accounts, but yet it's got an ROE of 40%, it's growing at 40%. At last view, the share price from where we invested was up 40%. And this is a company called 8990, I'm happy to report, in Philippines. It wasn't in Malaysia, unfortunately, but we're trying to learn from this company of how they've delivered this incredible triple bottom line, if you like. Some of our companies, Energy and Senviro in Malaysia, Axiata, for example, has invested in a micro-insurance firm from Sweden, although operating in developing countries, called Bima. If I can briefly explain, Bima's model essentially is they sell insurance to those who are not insured, but those who've got mobile phones. I actually discovered this almost by accident because as chairman of Axiata, myself and Tan Sri Jamal, we were told there's this company from Sweden, which I eventually saw them in Stockholm. Basically what they do is as follows. Now for mobile phone companies, as you know, one thing we have problem with is churn. So a lot of customers keep on moving to whoever comes out with the next best offer. So what we said was, we work with this company called Bima in 3 countries, in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka, and indeed with Celcom in Malaysia, that basically said, if the customer does not churn or stays with us for at least 6 months, the 7th month, Axiata, whether through Robi in Bangladesh or Dialog in Sri Lanka or Celcom in Malaysia, pays $1 a month. So it takes off our ARPU, but the cost of acquisition and the cost of churn is much higher than that. We give this amount to go and insure this person with Bima. Beautiful. So I saw this little rainbow that somehow circles everything together. So we decided we really like this. It was growing so fast, I've lost count how many subscribers it has in some countries in Asia and also in Latin America, this Swedish. So we invested. Actually, Axiata invested rather than Khazanah. We're looking for more, actually. So if you find companies, tell us about it, because especially in Malaysia, that we would like to support. Imagine that these companies deliver, great value in its most kind of a holistic definition, right, of value. The Islamic finance, or real finance, as I sometimes like to call it, because finance has kind of lost its way from its role, departing. There's the creation of a financial economy as opposed to what is commonly called the real economy, right? So we do practice, again, not the time or occasion today, but indeed, Khazanah, working with many of you from the accounting fraternity, we do believe that, this is like the aquarium, if you like, whereby the fishes are the companies. If the aquarium, i.e. the financial system, is kind of, not enough oxygen or wrong kind of liquidity and so on, big problem. So indeed, any discussion of sustainability of the economy, I think we can't divorce it from the discussion on the state or the altered state of finance, actually, but that's a separate lecture altogether. So I wouldn't go there, but just to place a marker on that point. Societal returns, indeed, the CR movement Khazanah itself, again, this is in the recorded speech, but indeed, we formed Yayasan Khazanah. I think our own conception of not just investing in impact for profit investments, but indeed the whole spectrum of delivering and distributing value, and not just creating value, but distributing value. And last, but certainly not least, to illustrate what this third wave could entail. It's a project that's been more than 5 years in the making. Our R&D lab, if you like, and our partner in this is actually Dato Faiz and the firm of PwC. It's a project which I think I'm ready now to talk somewhat publicly, called Project Kronos, that me and my colleagues, we've been doing this. So I mentioned about true value, which is not just a rallying cry at Khazanah, but it tries to measure, again, it's probably too small or not so clear, but this is an example that I think to highlight. Essentially, we're trying to measure, some say we're slightly crazy, hopefully crazy but not mad, that's the difference, to measure true value. So maybe the simplest way is for me to try and explain, let's take one of our largest holding, Nasional, which PwC is also the auditor of, right? He's still auditor, right? Oh, sorry. I saw a few people wake up when I said that. Other firms, but no. Tenaga, something quite close to me. I did the management accounts and then the general ledgers when I was, accountant there many years ago. Can someone help me? What's the market cap of Tenaga today? I should know this. 65, 70 B or thereabouts. Hey, nobody knows. Zani, berapa? Okay, I think it's about, Jeff? 72, okay, very exact number. So Tenaga, the market value is 72 billion. Khazanah is the single largest shareholder. So we should know, without breaking any laws, we should know, or we should have a view as active shareholders, what should be the intrinsic financial value of Tenaga. So let's say this number is 90 billion, for argument's sake, right? So 18 billion ringgit more. Of course, it may have, first, going concern Canada, sometimes concerned about going, but anyway, sorry, I shouldn't joke. But, going concern precept, but also, one can argue whether they will really honor the tariff, blah, 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 what happens with YTL, EDRA, etc. Park first, right? So, tak apalah, let's say it's 90 billion. Should we stop there? If the share price says 72 billion, and we think it's 90 billion, as investor, buy. What's the problem? Buy some more. And conversely, if it's 50 billion, sell. Of course, it's not as simple as that. I mean, Khazanah, for example, we are custodians of the national asset. If you EPF or Corp or Fidelity or whoever, you should trade, right? Very simple. But in the true value world, we have to ask, is it really 90 billion? For example, should we ask whether Tenaga Nasional is burning fossil fuels at a rate that befits this particular utility, at what kind of heat rate or thermal efficiency that befits Tenaga? First of all, we believe those thermal or fossil resources are to be used. There are some people who believe they shouldn't be used, which is, a point of view you have to respect, you don't have to agree. But we believe it should be used, but it should be used in proportionate, responsible way. Stewards, right? Trustees, right? And what is this appropriate way? So if we believe Tenaga Nasional actually, by virtue of generating electricity and foregoing, for example, maybe they should be doing their renewables faster, or indeed should be doing hydro more in a responsible way, we say, actually, you know what? The 90 billion kena tolak markah by, say, 20 billion. Not impossible. By the way, some of these results are coming through. It doesn't end there. So we have to ask. So just now from 90 billion, actually 70 billion. And there's a gap. There's a big gap, 20 billion. Again, this is, by the way, what do you call it? Illustrative. It's not necessarily what it is. In fact, I should credit Tenaga, actually does a pretty good job of this. I believe when they transport elephants, all kinds of things. Which is true, Kenya them. Now, but I'm making an illustrative point, right? Now, you and I, as accountants, may ask, hey, macam mana, how the hell do you estimate what is the right level. True. But if I were to ask you, how do you estimate depreciation? Come on. Surely obsolescence is not just straight line method, reducing balance method, come on. Cash is king, accounting is opinion. In fact, I would posit to you, accounting profession, my profession, you should grow eventually if what I want to do and what we want to do on this third wave, somewhere over the rainbow, conception of sustainability accounting, that we close the full loop of the rainbow of sustainability, you got a huge opportunity. You should have energy audits as part of your division, because I'm going to come to you. Obviously, we need an expert opinion for a utility like Tenaga at this level of development of a country like Malaysia, which is different, by the way, to a country like Indonesia or Philippines, which has different sources of energy. What is a defensible stewardship, trusteeship, utilization of fossil fuel? Sure, this will invite all kinds of debate, as it should, but it's our view. People don't want to agree, it's okay. Me and my colleagues, I think my guys tell me, boss, hold back on the... I want to commit some of these numbers publicly, but we've been doing beta testing, because the moment we show there and it catches fire or press, then we have to defend, and we argue. With Tenaga may not agree, but it is certainly to be taken seriously. Not end of story. Sustainable adjusted value, or SAV in our lexicon, is not just the difference between intrinsic financial value estimate plus minus environmental impact value, but there are other things like what are you doing about the impact to society or indeed to your own employees? Now again, can we actually measure something as fuzzy as employee industrial harmony, for example? I throw it back. Can we actually measure obsolescence risk? You know what? There is something called, actually it is probably more scientific and perhaps more robust than the calculation of depreciation. When companies do employee engagement surveys, for example, 72%, 75%, everybody participates, right? So in the age of big data, you can use many things to measure. So not just leave this to the HR consultants. Perhaps, in future, someone with the authority needs to give, this is my audit of what industrial harmony and the value created or destroyed by this particular company when it comes to human capital and employees, and so on. What about suppliers or supplier base and so on? So we try. What about governance? What do no harm? What has this company done on corruption, for example? Maybe I should construct a Surat Layang index. By the way, MD Khazanah get a lot of Surat Layang. I need some big data app to, actually it's reduced, which may not be a good thing. But, this fog of corruption and stuff like that, this is what ESG is about, right? So if we don't challenge, and guys, by the way, today, who can predict inflation, CPI, better? Is it all the clever economists and all the clever models? Apparently it's Google. Or at least Google claims. Why? Because of just by looking at search engines and data on search engines on how people look at me, and people put these things together, happening already. It's not even and people are that's baru what do you call it, data punya search engines. Now it's moving into it's already moved. In fact, Google Lens was announced. In fact, we have invested in a company that we think is ahead of Google Lens called Blippa, actually. You're welcome to look at it. So Blippa is basically a visual search engine that just scan, and if you scan this room, it can try and predict how happy or not happy you are, or how engaged or not engaged. Not a joke. Education, technology, right? Most people, including me, especially with Dato Faiz, cannot concentrate in class. Too boring. That's what it is. But just by looking at your this one, it can track. So technology is here to measure, actually. Of course, we have to be clever how to measure. Now, so Kronos, therefore, tries to measure through value. That's one illustration, lots of details. Believe me, this is not some PR thing. It took me more than 5 years to be ready to speak to an audience outside Khazanah. Dato Faiz knows this. I told Faiz, I want your A team. If your A team doesn't exist, go and create an A team. I said, they invite me to speak in Davos on this. I said, bloody hell, all these guys are not really paying attention. I said, there's a Nobel Prize to be won. Oh, everybody wake up, all these professors. Because capital asset pricing model is actually wrong, or at least not complete, right? Value is created by, among other things, tax shield, stuff like that, right? Come on. Surely life is much more than that. Don't tell me we're all reduced to tax shields and stuff like that. Come on. Now, next slide, please. Okay, this is more on it, but Project Kronos, and if I may, Doctor and Dato Faiz, Dato Zaitun and others, I will probably need, before it's in beta test, when it gets to alpha test in the next 12 months, I probably need some help or invite some of you to do some focus group to bounce off some of this. In the spirit, like, do they still have exposure drafts these days? Ada ke? Or at least exposure draft is there. Thank God for that. At least that hasn't changed, right? Now, so, you know what? Actually, this, just to share some numbers, 21 companies under Khazanah's investment portfolio of around 80 companies, depends how you count, involving some 76% of our portfolio value are currently under beta test. And within a couple of years, inshallah, we will roll this out in full and possibly publicly too, assuming it gets through beta test and alpha test. What is it going to do? So imagine the headlines. Tenaga by then no longer 72 billion, 120 billion, hopefully, inshallah. Whatever, in 2 years' time. So let's say it's worth 100 billion, but we actually say, for example, actually, can you imagine, Khazanah says it's actually worth 80 billion. Wow. How is that going to be taken? But it's worth 80 billion not because it's financially not valuable. In fact, financial value should be 110 billion. It's because it doesn't do a good enough job on, say, environmental matters. Big statement. Should we stop there? Surely there's more to life than just to provoke people, let alone our largest holding. No. We said we work with management, even if we disagree, and board. You know what? We believe in 3 years' time, you can close this gap by 50%, for example. Action oriented. We make this public to the Malaysian people, to our ultimate shareholders, actually, the public. This is what we think this is worth. Now, whether CalPERS, or BlackRock, or Blackstone, or Hermes Fund, and so on, jump into it or not, I don't know, but maybe they should. This is our little contribution as shareholders. I should share that the likes of World Bank, UN, WEF, Davos, they're looking at this. And actually, I tell them, Nanti dulu lah, wait, I think we're not quite ready yet, but we're cooking this up. And along the way, actually, we found we're not the only ones, actually. There are several other efforts around the world. In the Silicon Valley, for example, we're discovering, there are companies, in fact, some of those examples about measurement, using technology, big data, AI, deep tech, happening already, happening. And accounting profession, I would submit, you are still in one of the best positions. So ladies and gentlemen, the 3 ways of accounting, from just financial measurement to the rise of sustainability accounting to perhaps somewhere over the rainbow to try and measure true value in whatever definition, but we know roughly what we're talking about. And ladies and gentlemen, the last section I would like to cover is, given the foregoing, what is and what are the role of accountants? Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I hope I have done some justice to these incredibly important precepts. I have tried to outline a view of the 3 waves in the evolution of accounting. It is time to land on what is our role. So as I mentioned, to go beyond the rainbow, in thinking of the role of accountants, I thought I would want to go back and combine this one of the earlier metaphors around football lah. Boleh lah, football. So to all the Arsenal fans out there, sorry. The first two are what I call defense roles. The third is a defensive midfielder role. The fourth is an offensive midfielder role. And the final one is a striker's role. 5 roles. It's not five-a-side football, but the first role of accountants with regards to accountability and sustainability, I submit, is the role, you've heard this already, is the role of a custodian. I did not do the slides. I don't know why this guy is in there. Nick, you're not a Juventus supporter, but anyway. As a custodian of both, is a goalkeeper. Gianluigi Buffon, often rated #1, not David De Gea, Jeff. So Gianluigi Buffon. So as I mentioned earlier, the profession of accountant is truly a noble and sacred one. Don't be shy. If and only if we do not forget our true north, which is as trustees and trusted by the public to hold individuals and corporates and indeed governments accountable, and we must fulfill our role first and foremost of doing the right things in the right way. As a goalkeeper in football is also called a custodian. So goalkeeper's first job is to protect the goal, right? If the goalkeeper is unable to do so, whether through incompetence or irresponsibility, every other benefit that the goalkeeper can bring to the team, distribution, sweeper, keeper, or even scoring goals is obviously meaningless. I would submit that's our first role, first of 5, right? Second role is still on defense, is to be a standard bearer. Again, I definitely did not do these slides. Nicholas Core is, Nick, Gerrard retired already. Plus, he's not really a defender, so I don't know why you had to squeeze in Steven Gerrard. But a standard bearer he is, I must say, of the noble accounting. What is a standard bearer? If you go to war, right, in the war scene, the standard bearer is a guy who holds the flag, right? The flag bearer. So gaduh how, so the flag bearer mati, so someone else must hold the flag, right? This one tangan kena potong, so must put on the other hand, and so on, right? This kind of thing. That's the standard bearer. We are standard bearers, guys. We don't compromise. We stand under pressure, grace under pressure, stand up. What's the worst that can happen? It's okay. We're standard bearers. See Stephen Gerrard, once in a while you sleep, sorry. So standard bearer, that's the second one, right? The third role, a defensive midfielder, if I may, is that of an accountant's primary skill, or at least the original skill, which is as a tukang measure lah. I don't know if there's a word as measurer. Got word, I couldn't find. Nick asked me to put adjudicator. Big word, Nick, I don't understand what the hell is an adjudicator, but adjudicator sounds like a judge. I think measurer. What's the guy who measures? But so you heard about Project Kronos, of trying to measure, so there's different kind of measurement. But indeed, the analogy, I mean, famously or infamously, the money ball, as we all know, that's what's his name? Brad Pitt. This is the Oakland Raiders, I think. The Oakland Raiders, Oakland something. Huh? The Oakland Athletic. But the money ball culture has gone deep into football. Today, everybody got their data analysts and whatever, all running all kinds of computers like crazy. So this is the football or the sporting analogy, if you like. Certainly, you may agree, you would agree, I hope, that I made the case that we really need to apply, remember, the freshness when we were all 6, 17, 18, 19 years old, studying for our exam, learning debit and credits for the first time in the blush of spring of our first love and all that. Imagine you do again and try to figure out what is value. What is value? Why not? Which then I turned a little bit, this one goalie, standard bearer, defender, a bit of a defensive midfielder, but now we move to the offense a bit. The next role of accountant, I submit, should be a cheerleader, an attacking midfielder, if you like. Now, as accountants, we work within companies, people like me, supporting the drivers of our respective companies, the front line, if you like. As accountants too, like many of you in profession, we support companies, our clients. Whichever the case, if that particular company is undertaking healthy sustainability practices, looking to measure its true value, as opposed to merely undertake technical financial value, I think as accountants, as cheerleaders to that process, we are in a position to influence, if not shape, right? You can guide them along to cheerlead, right? But still, this is at least one remove. Like we are not the principals per se, but we can dare to cheerlead. Which then brings me to my fifth, certainly not least role of the accountant, is that of a thought leader. Now, it is not enough for accountants to cheer on good practices, but accountants, as thought leaders, should actually drive this process of true value. Okay, this is not just cheerleading, but we are taking center stage in driving this. Now, to use, before I come to the footballing example, we note in the rather popular book *Sapiens* by the author Yuval Noah Harari, he writes, and I quote, "The first name in history was the name Cushin," according to him, who signed off on a message written in the ancient Sumerian script that said 29,086 measures barley, 37 months Kushim, which is taken to mean a total of 29,086 measures of barley were received over the course of 37 months, signed by Kushim. Thus, as Hariri writes,